In the unpredictable world of American politics, one of the most critical roles in any presidential administration is that of the Chief of Staff. It's a position that demands not only political acumen but also a deep understanding of strategy, alliances, and governance. For Donald Trump, who is reportedly eyeing a return to the White House, the selection of Susie Wilds as his Chief of Staff was intended to provide a steady hand in navigating the complex political landscape. However, in a matter of days, her appointment has become one of the most glaring failures of Trump's potential administration. The internal chaos that has unfolded since Wilds was named to the position reveals much more than a simple misstep in personnel selection. It speaks to deeper issues within Trump's inner circle, from flawed decision-making processes to the undermining of his own team. Wilds' tenure has already been marred by missteps in cabinet appointments, a lack of control over the administration's agenda, and infighting that has weakened Trump's already fragile political base. This video takes a deeper dive into the multiple failures under Susie Wilds' leadership and examines how her time as Chief of Staff, though still in its infancy, may prove to be a disastrous turning point in Trump's political ambitions. From botched cabinet appointments to strained relationships with key political players, Wilds' brief time in power has been anything but a success. The role of the Chief of Staff, a powerful position in the White House. Before we dive into Susie Wilds' failures, it's important to understand the enormous weight carried by the position of Chief of Staff. In a functioning White House, the Chief of Staff is not only the president's closest advisor but also the gatekeeper of the administration's agenda. The Chief of Staff manages the White House staff, coordinates the president's schedule, liaises with Congress, and ensures that policy decisions are executed effectively. They must be a seasoned leader, capable of controlling the flow of information, handling crises, and maintaining a delicate balance between various factions within the administration. However, what we are witnessing with Wilds is a profound lack of the necessary qualities for this role. Despite her experience working as a campaign co-director for Trump in Florida, Wilds lacks the essential knowledge of Washington's intricate political networks and the seasoned leadership required to oversee a national administration. The lack of experience has already begun to show, as Wilds has struggled to control the most basic elements of the Trump White House, resulting in confusion, chaos, and missed opportunities. The cabinet appointment fiasco, the first major red flag. One of the most critical responsibilities of any Chief of Staff is to manage the selection of cabinet members and ensure they are both qualified and capable of advancing the president's agenda. Wilds' failure to manage this process effectively has already begun to raise serious questions about her competence. Matt Gaetz for Attorney General? The nomination of Representative Matt Gaetz for Attorney General is a textbook example of a major political misstep. Known for his controversial comments and ongoing legal issues, Gaetz has long been a lightning rod for criticism. His name was reportedly floated as a candidate for Attorney General during a private conversation between Trump and his advisors. What makes this choice so troubling is that Wilds, who was supposedly in charge of managing these nominations, was entirely blindsided by it. According to reports, Wilds only became aware of Gaetz's nomination after it was leaked to the press, leaving her scrambling to manage the fallout. The timing of the announcement could not have been worse. Gaetz is currently under investigation for allegations of sexual misconduct and involvement in a sex trafficking ring. For a position as critical as Attorney General, selecting someone with these kinds of legal troubles is not only reckless, but damaging to the credibility of the administration. More importantly, this decision further exposes Wilds' inability to assert control over her team and make decisions that are in the best interest of the president. Rather than halting the nomination, Wilds allowed it to go forward, showing a lack of foresight and judgment that is difficult to overlook. Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, a total disaster. If the Gaetz appointment wasn't troubling enough, Wilds also found herself embroiled in another disastrous nomination, Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. Hegseth, a former Fox News host and outspoken Trump supporter, lacks the military or defense expertise necessary for such an important position. His public statements, which have often been inflammatory and controversial, only add to the concerns about his suitability for a role that requires sound leadership and a deep understanding of national security. Wilds, once again, was caught off guard by this choice. She reportedly learned about Hegseth's nomination after it was publicly announced, sparking yet another round of criticism. The fact that Hegseth was selected without proper vetting, including a lack of FBI background checks, reflects poorly on Wilds' leadership and her ability to manage the staffing of the administration. If the administration is to be successful, it is essential that every nominee for such a critical position undergoes a thorough background check to ensure they meet the standards of competence and integrity expected of them. Internal infighting and the breakdown of trust. In addition to Wilds' disastrous handling of cabinet appointments, there has been an alarming amount of infighting within Trump's inner circle. The chief of staff is supposed to be the unifying force within the White House, but instead, Wilds has failed to keep the peace among Trump's advisors, resulting in leaks, rivalries, and power struggles. One example of this breakdown in communication and trust came when Trump attempted to nominate Rick Scott for Senate Majority Leader. Wilds assured Trump that Scott was a surefire choice, but when the Senate rejected him in favor of John Thune, Wilds was once again left scrambling. The fallout from this failed nomination created deep rifts within the Republican Party, as senators aligned with Trump's vision were angered by the lack of internal cohesion. It became evident that Wilds lacked the political savvy to manage these delicate relationships. Instead of using her position to build alliances and maintain control over Trump's team, she allowed chaos to unfold. This failure has only exacerbated Trump's already tenuous relationships with key political figures, making it increasingly difficult for him to unify the Republican Party behind his agenda. A cabinet of controversy. The Trump administration's future in jeopardy. The broader issue at play here is that Trump's potential cabinet is a collection of individuals with questionable backgrounds and little to no experience in governance. Wilds' failure to properly vet these individuals only highlights the dangers of appointing loyalists who are unqualified for key roles. Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. Gabbard has long been criticized for her controversial views on Russia and her connections to pro-Kremlin talking points. Her appointment to such a critical role in the U.S. intelligence community would be disastrous. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services. While Kennedy's anti-vaccine rhetoric and controversial stance on public health may resonate with some, they are not qualifications for a job that demands a deep understanding of public health policy. Lee Zeldin as EPA Administrator. Zeldin, who has no background in environmental science or policy, would be a disastrous choice to lead an agency responsible for protecting the environment. Together, these appointments make it clear that Trump's administration, under Wilds' leadership, is pursuing an agenda based more on loyalty and ideological purity than competence or experience. The question now is whether these appointments can survive the confirmation process, and if they do, whether they will be able to effectively carry out their duties. Is Susie Wilds sabotaging Trump or simply incompetent? As the chaos unfolds, one question remains. Is Susie Wilds deliberately sabotaging Trump's potential administration, or is she simply unqualified and out of her depth? Some have speculated that Wilds may be working behind the scenes to undermine Trump, either out of personal ambition or out of a desire to see his political career come to an end. However, the more likely explanation is that Wilds is simply not capable of handling the responsibilities of the chief of staff position. Her repeated failures to manage cabinet appointments, resolve internal conflicts, and maintain control over the White House suggest a lack of both strategic thinking and leadership ability. It's possible that Trump, in his quest for loyalty and alignment, has placed too much trust in Wilds, only to be met with disaster. Can Wilds survive? The clock is ticking on Susie Wilds' time as chief of staff. With each passing day, her incompetence becomes more apparent, and her position grows more tenuous. Given the sheer volume of political missteps, it's unclear how much longer she can hold on to her job. Trump, known for his fiery temperament and quick decisions, is unlikely to tolerate this level of failure for much longer. If Wilds can't find a way to stabilize the administration, she could quickly become another casualty in Trump's chaotic political world. Susie Wilds' appointment as chief of staff has already proven to be a disaster for Trump's political future. From botched cabinet nominations to infighting and a lack of control over the administration, Wilds' failures have left a lasting mark on Trump's potential 2024 campaign. Whether she can recover from these early missteps remains to be seen, but for now, it appears that Wilds has done more harm than good to Trump's ambitions.